Hi, welcome to All Things Possible TV. I'm Kris Barney, and this is
I'm Bill.
Bill Barney, my husband and business partner. And we are excited to share with you the 3 tips to instantly improve your relationships. We're going to have some fun, and we're going to tell you some things that you can do right now and have immediate results. Sometimes when we have new changes and stuff that we're doing, it takes a while before stuff really starts to fall into place. And yet the 3 we're going to share with you today can instantly change how things are going in your relationships.
And don't be looking for something hard or complicated that's just going to totally change the world. It's the small, simple things that is what really works. And these are small and simple, but amazingly profound. So
they're the ones that we tend to overlook. And when things start to get a little rocky or aren't just perfect, they're the things that happen that we just think, oh, well, I don't want to do that right now. But before we go into it, we want to invite you to visit our website at allthingspossible.biz. And if you've ever watched our show, Bill has quite a bit of fun with his little...
It's right here this time where it's supposed to be. Cool.
Join us at allthingspossible.biz and get the 7 traits. It's a video series, and it goes through the 7 traits that can change your life. It's the things that you can do easily and profoundly to have a big impact on making change in your life and creating happiness and being able to move to the next level. So wherever you're at, if you want to up your game, get the 7 traits.
Everything that she said. Yes.
Doesn't he obey really well?
Happy wife, happy life.
Okay, so let's get started with our relationships. Obviously, Bill's giving you extra tips, apparently, today. But the number one first thing that we want to talk about is what I call 10 touches. Of course, I'm getting...
Touched. There's 3.
Okay, so if you're in a relationship, I want to say significant relationship, touch is so important. And sometimes when we get upset or we have feelings, the first thing we do is withdraw. And we tend to be like mad, and we're like, I'm going to show them. And so we're just, fold our arms and close off.
I'm going to punish them.
And we're going to punish them. And yet what really happens is we feel that we have this need to have physical touch. And it's with children, it's with significant relationships. That is a core piece. In fact, why don't you tell them about the studies?
Well, in what they found with many of the orphanages, I say that in Eastern Europe, orphanages in Eastern Europe, that they become inundated with babies, and the staff, a lot of times it was hard to get around, but they started to notice, and they started to watch these children, and for the babies that were not picked up at all, they take babies and give them all of their needs, all their nutrition, everything that they needed, their food, their physical needs, change their diapers when they was needed. But without any physical touch, these babies would inadvertently die. They did very, very poor. They would start to lose weight and die off. If they found that these same babies they took and gave them up to 4 touches a day, they would survive, but just barely hang on. Just barely hang on, but they could survive.
Bottom of the chart.
Yeah.
Survival.
They could survive with up to 4 touches a day. If they increase that between 5 and 7 touches a day, the babies would actually do quite a bit better and start to gain a little bit of weight and be, on the threshold of decent health at that point. What they found beyond that is if they went to 8 to 10 touches a day, the babies would begin to thrive. They gained weight, they were happier babies, they were more emotionally stable, and what's some of the other stuff?
Well, they would thrive. They would crawl earlier, they would walk sooner, they could communicate in sentences faster. There's just so much to it that when they actually had 10 touches, that they actually thrived in all areas. So cognitively, physically, and structurally, they just really did so much better. And that's the only thing they changed, was how many times these babies were touched. If they were held when they were fed, if they were given that interaction with touch.
It's a basic human need that we have to be touched. And in a relationship, when we're a little bit angry, when she doesn't fold my socks right, then I don't want to touch her, right? She always folds my socks right, by the way. But no, when some little thing irritates us, we tend to withdraw. Well, I'm going to punish them. I'm going to withhold. And it it's the death, or it's the beginning of death of a relationship when you start withholding those touches. Now, we're talking about all kinds of relationships. Obviously, one of them would be a romantic relationship, but there's significant relationships beyond that. Children, friends, things like that. We need those touches and that contact. And even between husband and wife, or a romantic relationship, it doesn't have to be a romantic touch. It's a simple touch. It can be a simple touch.
It can be touching them on the leg. It can be just putting your arm on their shoulder. It can actually be touching. In fact, if you look at new relationships and you see a couple that's together, they can't wait to be together. They're holding hands. They're sitting by each other and they're like cuddled up. They're sitting on the couch. Their legs are crossed. They're touching constantly. And that's because that's a draw. That's a need. And when I'm mentoring clients, a majority of my clients get this assignment, and it is 10 touches. Once you start with consistent touch, what it does is it draws you closer. You actually are drawn to each other. You actually want each other more. So it becomes a very romantic thing, as well as shows quite a bit of affection, but it also helps you to move to that next level. All of us need to belong, and we're going to talk about belonging in a couple of things in this today, but we all need to belong. It's in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's the third one, and you can't go any farther until you belong.
You feel like you belong somewhere, and that touching helps a person to feel like they belong.
They're wanted, they're needed, they feel that need of belonging. So it's very important. The other thing is, don't be afraid to hug your kids. Have affection, even when they get to teenage years. A lot of times teenagers get really shut off and they push away, but the best thing you can do is sometimes just go lean on them. We have a daughter that wasn't a touchy-feely, huggy girl. And so I would find ways to go up and be like, how you doing? How was school today? And rub her shoulders, rub the back of her neck, stand behind her and talk to her. And we had to come up with a few ways, because she wasn't just like, I want to hug you and stuff. And she became, the more we did this, the more she did want that touch, and she started wanting hugs. And now when I see her, she's all married in on her own. Now it's a hug that you don't want to let go of, because
Absolutely.
She wants that touch, and she wants that relationship, and she wants that feeling. So make sure that when you're dealing with children, and when they're little, they want to come and hold onto your legs and be around you, but as they grow older, sometimes they start to resist, especially if you've got boys and you're the mom. Sometimes they start to pull away, and you need to have that touch. They need that positive reinforcement from you. Plus, there's an exchange of energy, and if your child their energy's lower than you are, it will actually raise their energy, so it can improve their attitude, improve their situation. If they're having a really hard time, they're not talking to you about it, even just a little bit of touch or that affection can help them without them even knowing that what you're doing. Don't you love my great big boy? I'm still raising him. Almost 32 years later.
I just got sleepy. Anyway.
Okay, so number 2 is
selfishness. WIIFM. And that's not a radio station.
Okay, so selflessness is what we're trying to get you to do. Selfishness is that what's in it for me, right?
Right, that's what I said.
That's kind of what our world's all about right now, is what's in it for me? Why should I come? Why should I do this? Why should I do that?
What can I get out of that?
And what am I going to get out of it? Right. What's in it for me? And if we can switch that to what's in it for them, let's just put a T on the end.
FT.
What is in it for them to be in a relationship with you?
And you know what? This is just something I've noticed since I began noticing, which was a long time ago, actually.
He pays good attention.
Is that every time I've seen a relationship come apart, a divorce or any significant relationship, when you sit down and start talking to the people, I have seen this in every single one.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's both people. Sometimes it's just one, and sometimes one more than the other. But it's selfishness. It's, I need to be fulfilled. My needs are more important, and that person gets more involved in, and they get wrapped up in fulfilling their own needs And that's when the relationship starts to die. Now there are many, many other things. There's financial, there's cheating, there's all kinds of things that
Those all come back to selfishness.
that ruin a marriage or ruin a relationship. But it comes back to, you stop to think about the people that you know, that you've seen their relationships come apart, and maybe even if you've had one come apart, be honest with yourself. Were you more interested in that person's desires? Were you more interested in going to see the movie that they wanted to see than rather to see, does it always have to be an action movie? Or, sometimes it can be a chick flick.
Can it be a chick flick?
Yeah. And so when Kris and I go to the movie, she's like, well, do you want to go see it? No, let's go see a chick flick. I haven't cried for 5 or 10 minutes, and so I need
But watch the commercial. No, but seriously, if the fastest way to make change in your partner is for you to step up your game. For you to be like, what are their needs? What would they like? What would they enjoy? One of the things that I'm going to tattle on Bill is most of you probably know I've had foot surgeries and stuff, but I have a lot of pain in my feet. And one of the best things that you could do for me is a foot rub, is to rub my feet with lotion.
I'm guilty.
And he does it all the time. Does it all the time. And that is so relaxing for me and feels really good to my feet and gives me that touch. There's so many things that it fulfills for me, and that makes me want to do more for him.
It makes her want to get up and bake brownies or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually baked brownies.
It's a euphemism.
But when you're willing to do for your partner what you know they makes them feel good, learn their love language, figure out what it is they like, how you can serve that person. It's the fastest way to turn a relationship back and the fastest way to change a person. I can't change Bill, but the more I tell him about the good things he's doing, how much I appreciate him, how hard he's working for me, is he going to work more and hard to provide for me, or is he going to take a day off and go golfing? Right?
Right.
He doesn't golf.
As if I would. But I just want to add one little thing before we move on, and I know we
Okay.
need to keep it rolling here, is be careful you don't get into, hey, I gave you 3 foot rubs, so it's time for you to make me that extra nice meal or whatever that is.
Those brownies.
Or, yeah, keeping score is just, it ruins, it takes away all the points you've gained if you start keeping score, either to yourself or to the other person.
True
It has to be a
selflessness.
selfless energy.
Right. True selflessness is not keeping track.
It's not about keeping track or
It's
keeping
about,
score.
that's your goal is to actually fulfill the needs of your
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah, my reward, the human animal won't do anything without a reward. My reward is to see her happy. Happy wife, happy, life.
Happy wife, happy life, right?
And so my reward is to say, no, I'm being a little silly, but you don't keep score. It's not about who owes who what.
Right.
It's about being truly selfless, not with, I'm going to do this so I can get what I want. Yeah. that.
Right. So Bill was going to share a story with you, and
Well, yes, I am, and this is just, I just mentioned what I might talk about. We don't sometimes plan everything we're going to say in these
right, but he did
videos.
say he had a story to share that I didn't know about.
Yes, I says, I have a perfect thing. Because when someone does something that irritates us, really they're holding up a mirror for us to look at ourselves, okay? And you'll find some people that just really, really bug you. They're holding up a mirror. There's something inside of you that's not right, or that wouldn't bother you so much. And so when you have something with your partner, you don't have to go to your partner about everything they're doing that is bothering you, okay? It's just that nitpicking, oh, we have to make it perfect. This bothers me. I've got to make sure and have open communication and tell them all about that. Not always the case. And I told Kris, this is the first time I ever brought it up. She had something that she was doing that was starting to really irritate me. And I'd think about it, and it would just irritate me. And I got to that point, it's like, well, I'm going to talk to her about this because I need, this to change. It's bothering me. And I knew that if I did talk to her about it, it would not be a pleasant conversation. And so I put it off for a long time.
Wouldn't make brownies, that's for sure.
I wouldn't get any brownies out of that conversation.
Or chocolate
But finally,
chip
I started looking at this principle. Well, you know what? There's something inside of me. And so I went to work and started doing work on me. Why does this bother me? And I started doing a lot of internal processing and meditating. and other energetic processes on that as to why this bothers me. And it really didn't take long. And you know what? Her behavior hasn't changed, but it doesn't bother me now. There's no reason to talk to her about it. Of course, when I mention this to her, she has to know.
Yeah, I said, what was it?
I'm not going to tell her.
her.
Because it doesn't bother me anymore. It doesn't matter, okay? It wasn't anything significant. She's not a bad person. She wasn't burning my toast. You know, it was nothing like that. But it was something that was irritating me, and now it doesn't. The problem wasn't with her, it was with me. So it doesn't always have to be the other person's problem.
Well, and be willing to look within.
Yeah.
Like, be willing to look and say, oh, I was not very good in this, or I'm not showing enough affection here, or I could step up my game. Be willing to do that.
And I can tell you that the result was still the same. I found out I was the one with the problem. And I didn't have to talk to her to find it out. So it was win-win, right?
Okay, so number 3. Number 3 is communication. Surprise, surprise. Communication is key in a relationship.
What'd you
a
say?
significant relationship. Communication.
Okay.
Not brownie cooking, but communication.
I was listening.
Yeah, one of the big things in communication is to listen. And sometimes women and men do this differently.
Yeah, there's a definite difference between the sexes, or the genders, whatever you want to call it, as to, right.
How much you listen and how much you hear.
Because men are not multitaskers, and it's really hard for us to breathe and listen at the same time.
That can be kind of true.
So, go ahead, tell your part, because I will admit, listening
No,
sometimes
you
is a
do
challenge.
need to be really willing to listen, and sometimes rather than just saying you're willing to listen, it's actually taking the time to stop and be, okay, I'm listening. And that really comes down to creating time for that. Now, some people like to go on date night and talk through dinner and hash that stuff all out. But one of the things that we learned many years ago, and that we did even with our kids, was, and we're naming it something different for you, but we call it roses, thorns, and buds. And what that is it's a recap.
Kris, can we, because this is such a cool thing, I kind of want to end on that.
Okay.
I want to tell, because you told kind of like what the men can focus on, what our weakness is, and
Okay.
and I want to tell you another weakness is we're, as men, so for females who are listening to this, I have something you didn't know before. We're dense. We're very simple creatures, and sometimes we don't understand these little abstract things, and so what I like and what helps, I think, in a relationship, and I'm being a little bit facetious, it goes for both sexes, I'm not picking on one or the other, we're just having fun with it, but clear communication. There are so many different ways of communicating. In fact, our body language is what percent of our communication?
It's a really high percent, like 70%.
70% or higher is body language. But yet men sometimes, if we're not listening, we're not looking, and all we do is hear the words that are being said. Okay, and not just men, but many people, they grow up in families, they have certain ways of doing things, and there's certain subtle signals that are just as natural and as clear to them. You get in with somebody else who grew up in a different environment, even maybe a different culture, and what should be a clear social or subtle cue, somebody just totally doesn't even get it.
Right.
So let me take an example of garbage, and this does not happen in our house, because my wife has learned to communicate clearly when she wants the garbage out. But for an example, so you can know what I'm talking about, one of the ways that somebody might want to tell the other person that the garbage needs to be taken out is they'll walk into the room and go, oh, it sure smells in here. I wonder what stinks so bad. And if it's a guy, he's sitting there thinking, duh, it's my socks. And he goes right back and finds another channel. And the person who tried to give him the suggestion is like, he knows it's the garbage. He's just, clear communication. Because sometimes we're dense. And sometimes we use sarcasm or say exactly what the opposite will. What's wrong, honey? Nothing. Nothing. Okay? Clear communication.
Are you mimicking someone?
Yes, it was somebody I knew that wasn't you. Okay.
Good. Because I don't walk around, fold my arms, and turn my head, right?
You don't.
So be careful what you're mimicking.
No, I'm not saying it's you, but these are, it's generalities
right.
with people.
It is, but Okay, so I don't walk around and go, oh, it's time for the garbage to go out. I gather them and put them by the back door.
Right.
And I know he's walking out the door, walking straight down the stairs right by the garbage can. And I don't have any kids at home now, so it's not been something, but it's something that we've worked out. We've communicated enough to know, hey, this is where it's at.
But don't assume that
But
somebody knows all your
you can't
cues.
assume that they're going to get it.
Clear
unless you
communication.
have talked about it, or you
Yeah.
have worked out a situation that works. It's not that you have to repeat yourself constantly, and be careful how much you're asking and nagging. Like if they've heard it and
I've really worked on my nagging.
it needs to get handled, you can ask again if it's not happening, but be careful of how you're writing the situation. You don't want people telling you over and over and over, so think of it both ways.
Okay. That's good. That's all. Clear communication.
So clear
Say what
communication.
you mean.
So one of the things that is very powerful is to do a recap. And do a recap in a connection that you can talk about what you're going to create for the next day. A lot of times this can be done when you're in bed, you're finishing your day, and just kind of recap and talk for a few minutes, where it's not about correcting each other, it's not about being defensive, it's about talking about your day. So the roses, thorns, and buds is your high for the day. What was your high for the day?
What was your roses? What was your awesome stuff? What happened that was good?
Right, that
Yeah.
can be at work, it can
Why don't you
be
just share that?
communication with each other, it can be something the kids did,
Love the brownies.
it can be the granddaughter, it could be anything. But then you also get the thorns. You get a chance to say, I was really hurt by this.
Or
This really
she could
hurt
say,
me,
you know,
or-
honey, I bagged up the garbage and I set it by the back door and it's still there. Kind of, that kind of bothered me a little bit. I thought that you would just grab it and take it out. And, I'll get it in the morning or whatever. But you just say it. Make a rule though that when somebody brings up something that's negative, you do not argue about it. You just say, oh, okay. And if it needs to be talked about, we'll talk about it tomorrow. We just accept it. The awesome thing here is if you can talk about the thorns or the hard parts, you don't go to bed and your subconscious mind
Right.
churns that over all night long. How bad this person is, what they did and said that offended me, and then our subconscious mind works on that all night long. We wake up in the morning, we're mad, and pretty soon our relationship is frazzling, unraveling, and coming apart. And so it's a great way to just say it, but with the unspoken rule that, okay, great, we acknowledge it, and we'll talk about it tomorrow if we need to, but this is a time to just let go so that we go to sleep at peace.
The other thing with this is that it allows you to be heard. It allows you to speak the emotion rather than stuff the emotion to cause more damage to your health and your body. And it gives you a chance to be validated. It gives you a chance to state what's happened. It doesn't have to be just the garbage. It can be somebody at work that did something that was offensive to you. It could be a phone call that went bad. It could be a bill that came that you're not happy with. So it's true communication. Recap the day and start with highs, get your lows out, and then the buds is what you're going to create tomorrow.
What's getting ready to flower? What do you want to flower? What flowers do
What?
you want to see tomorrow?
What are you focusing on that's positive? And it can be something you're working on together. It can be something that you're working on yourself. But it's that creation. What are you creating for tomorrow?
And what you're doing is you're giving your subconscious mind an assignment. I'm going to work on something positive all night long while we're sleeping. That was the last mandate it was given. And I'll tell you what, if you've still got, this is great in a relationship between a couple. If you have children at home, this is amazing. You start doing this, and your kids start trusting that if they bring up a thorn or a negative, knowing that they're not going to get in trouble or get yelled at, that it's not going to be a big deal, they'll just be heard, you will be amazed once they begin to trust you what kind of things your kids start to share with you. It is powerful.
Well,
Once they feel that safety, it's
Right, and it's a
amazing.
good time that you can find out a teacher said something or did something, or there's a spite at school, or things are happening when they're not usually feeling like they can tell you. At this point, they're like, oh, nothing's going to happen. Nobody's going to get upset. I just get to say it. And then they aren't holding it either. We actually took in as a foster child our nephew, and he was really struggling. He had a police record. He had been in trouble, and he had Asperger's. And this was by far the best thing we ever did with him, even though we had to get him through a whole bunch of high school and a whole bunch of stuff.
It was amazing the things he
teach
shared
him.
with us, that because he didn't have the social communication skills, but once he knew that was a safe place, once he knew we weren't going to get upset and he could really talk about it, I was blown away. And there were times I had to go,
Yeah, there were times we
That-
had to
we're glad to
totally
hear
bite
that.
our tongue and be like,
Yeah.
we can't say anything.
right, because they'd
But-
say, I'm upset about the way that you did this to me today earlier. And I knew I was right, but I had to say, okay, thank you for sharing that.
Well, and sometimes it's even,
we're
I'm
gonna-
sorry that you were upset,
Yeah,
about that. And now sometimes there were things that we had to work out, but it wasn't done that night.
but maybe we
It-
can talk about that tomorrow. Or
Right,
something.
it can become
And thank
something
you.
that you can focus on, and if it's a way you're correcting your child, you can look at that and try different methods. If it's a way that the child feels left out, I mean, there was one time that he was so upset because he didn't get to choose the radio channel on the drive to school.
And he was still fuming about it at night, and he would have went to bed mad about it all night long.
What I'm trying to tell you is that there were things that were said that we had to just be able to monitor so we could get to the next level. And that is easy to do when you're allowing them to tell you their roses, their thorns, and the buds. And it makes it so it's so much more manageable.
Let's do a quick recap. What are the 3 things?
The 3 things are the 10 touches
Selflessness, what's in it for them?
and communication. Clear communication and being able to have a recap for your day and creation for tomorrow, which we call roses, thorns, and buds.
Okay, awesome.
So, thanks for being here with us today. We're excited to be able to share content with you and to be able to have you with the All Things Possible community. So right here on the screen is our website, www.allthingspossible.biz. Again, www.allthingspossible.biz. For being here and staying to the end, we want to offer you a free strategy session. So if you would like to get your strategy session, just click on the Contact Us button on the website and send us an email. Also, you have one last chance to get your free 7 traits. So go to the website and click on that, enter your information, and become part of our community and join us so that you get all the information that we put out. It was great to have you here with us and hope to see you next time here on All Things Possible TV. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.